Dynatron is our guest presenter today on this Profit Improvement webinar series of events, and we're all set to go here. Chuck Pappas, our VP of Operations, will come on in just a moment to introduce our presenter guest today. Chuck, take it away.
Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for registering for our Profit Improvement webinar. We're glad you're joining us today. This afternoon, we're pleased to present Rob Bolaris, who is the Dynatron Software Director of Sales. Today, Rob will uncover the hidden opportunities in your service department. We started this webinar series about 3 years ago. In the course of these webinars, we have presented a wide variety of category topics: audit recovery, reducing shipping costs, marketing analysis, which was really an interesting one, dealer DMS systems, and there's a lot going on with what's happened to CDK and everything. Aircraft financing, our popular buy-sell webinars are huge. People are really interested in moving into additional dealerships or trying to get out of the ones they have. Anyway, as well as revenue-producing opportunities that we have, they're all intended to reduce expenses and improve your profitability. If you're new to the series, we encourage you to stay tuned and watch for other profit improvement topics that are coming up. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Rob. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chuck. And I'm going to take it away and get my webcam going here so everyone can see my smiling face from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. Good morning / afternoon, everyone. So first of all, I think, just to put it in perspective, the reason we've partnered with StrategicSource over the years is their core philosophy is a penny saved is a penny earned, while Dynatron's core philosophy is a penny earned is a penny saved, right? So it's really about a partnership of excellence. Where we see StrategicSource as our strength is they do something entirely different, but very complementary to profit improvement, which is mitigating unnecessary expense without negatively impacting the quality of service. Whereas what we're going to learn today with Dynatron, we've become a buzzword in the industry and have been considered the best kept secret because we really do have some secrets in terms of profit improvement and finding hidden opportunities within your service department. And that's really where we're going to focus on today's webinar. Before I get any further, I do want to just thank everyone from StrategicSource. We've been doing these webinars now for several years, and we very much enjoy educating the automotive world in terms of best practice with respect to achieving and exceeding their gross revenue goals for each year. So just to kind of kick things off, we'd like to know who we're speaking with today. So we're going to put out a poll, and if you could just select your appropriate title so that we can kind of just get a gauge of who has joined today's webinar, being either a dealer principal, dealer management, maybe service team member, and of course we've got some StrategicSource team members here, and other is also an option. So I'll give everyone just a couple of minutes to click their appropriate title, and it looks like we're good there. And it looks to me like we've got a good amount of dealer management today, some service team members, as well as a few others. So I'll go ahead and end that poll, share the results with everyone, and then we will move on to the next slide. All right. So who is Dynatron? So again, Dynatron has been considered the best kept secret in the automotive industry for a reason that I will articulate today. We currently work with over 3,800 dealers nationally, most of which are part of the largest dealer groups in the country. And what we're really known for in the industry is, again, really uncovering hidden opportunities in the service department. And we're going to get more into that in today's meeting. But I'd like to know on today's participant group, has anyone used Dynatron in the past, or is anyone a current partner? And again, another poll just came up. I can see that a lot of folks are answering, so I'll give everybody just a couple minutes to answer that question. And we'll go ahead and end that poll, and I'm going to share the results. So it looks like about 70% of you have never heard of Dynatron before, which again makes sense because we are the best kept secret in the automotive industry. It looks like we've got about 2 people in the group today that are current members of our family, as well as 1 participant that has used us in the past. So I appreciate everybody answering that poll. Now to kick things off, I love to understand as an industry what the commonality of everyone's goals are for this year. And I've talked to literally hundreds of dealer principals, general managers, service directors, and it's almost always one of two things. And what it boils down to is gross revenue, whether that's by adding new technicians to turn more wrenches, or whether it's replacing service advisors, or whether it's increasing gross just in general. The two most common ways to achieve this that I hear from your peer group are either we've got to sell more to each existing customer to exceed that goal, which is really about hours and dollars per repair order, or two, we've got to increase traffic and get new customers in the service drive, right? Those are the two most common ways to increase service department revenue. But what we recognize as the industry experts is there's a third, oftentimes overlooked area of opportunity to optimize your pricing. And our core philosophy as the fixed operations experts, as it may not make sense to sell more or increase traffic until we know definitively that our prices are optimal for retention, first and foremost, as well as profitability. So that's where we start, is optimizing our partners' prices. And to that end, we're generating an average of $314,000 within the first really 6 months of our partnership with new dealers. Now, to put this all in perspective, before we tell you the hows, let's look at the output, okay? If you look at the left-hand side of the screen here, you're going to see our average customer pay effective labor rate improvement over 180 days, which represents our first 6 months of our partnership. And that number is $16.55. Now, each one of you on today's meeting knows your average customer pay hours sold each month. It could range anywhere from 100 to 5,500 if you're running a massive operation. But if you take those average hours for me now, and you open up a calculator, and let's say your average is 1,500 CP hours a month. If you take your average CP hours sold each month, and you multiply it times our average effective labor rate increase of $16.55, you're going to get an idea of the monthly revenue growth that we're able to facilitate through what I'm about to share with you today. Now, if you multiply that number times 12 and annualize it, that really represents a conservative figure if we hit our average stride working with your service team of what we expect to make you in year one, really most of which is captured in that first 6 months. Now, everyone on today's webinar knows if you gain a $16.55 effective labor rate improvement, your warranty labor rate increase follows that dramatically. Now, focusing your attention to the right side of the screen, you can see why our average first year increase on warranty is significantly higher than what you would expect. It's $23.75 because before we ever file for our partners, we're dialing in and optimizing price. We're maximizing customer pay effective labor rate, and again, I'm going to show you how we do that in today's webinar, to the end result of a $23.75 average increase. So now you could take your average warranty hours sold each month, do the math on a $23.75 increase, annualize it, and by putting those two figures together, you're going to realize what if we just hit our average with a partnership with folks not using us on today's webinar, what we're really talking about making you guys in gross improvement over the initial 6 months of a potential partnership. Now, interestingly, in the industry, we have one of the best return on investment propositions. What that means is from a retention standpoint, because of our results, we are at 98.5%, most of which, again, are the largest dealer groups in the country. You're going to understand why that's the case today, but I also want to point out that on the customer pay side, looking at that effective labor rate revenue, hopefully you all had a chance to do that calculation, that represents 3/4 of the overall opportunity in terms of growth of our partnership, while 1/4, the $64,400 number, represents the warranty labor rate opportunity. So I'd like to ask another question, if I could please, and that is, how confident is everyone in today's call in terms of your service pricing? 1 being very confident, 2 being somewhat confident, and 3 being not at all confident. All right, and we will continue moving. So the question is, why do you need Dynatron software to help you accomplish these goals, right? Everyone on this call may have a very talented fixed operations director, service director, service manager. Why can't they do this and optimize the price on their own? It's a good question, right? The reality is, if you ask yourself who you're really selling to within the service department, you have 4 basic customer pay segments. The first one is your actual retail customers coming through the shop. The second would be extended warranty, like your JM&As coming through the shop. The third really could be broken out into more than one, which represent our fleet. Maybe we have government accounts. Some of you may have corporate accounts. And if you're domestic, chances are you have some truck, heavy diesel accounts. Now we could even add high tech or electric vehicles to this particular component. And the last is your employees bringing their vehicles through the shop. But let's say conservatively, in the customer pay side of the business, we have 4 different customer pay segments. Now, because we've been doing this almost 30 years, we recognize the average service department sells 1,200 different variable services, 1,200. Doing some quick math of multiplying that times the 4 customer segments, all of a sudden, everyone on today's webinar realizes we're trying to optimize 4,800 different price points. Now, even if it were possible that you were able to achieve the optimal price on every single one of those price points, the reality is you've got to do it every quarter to make sure they're still perfect for retention and profitability. Now, think about that for a minute from a group perspective, right? One of the groups we've recently started working with is AutoNation. I actually multiplied the 247 rooftops times the 4,800 price points for their executive team, and they were blown away by the fact that they're trying to do something that's almost impossible without some level of assistance on an electronic level. So that's why the opportunity exists to partner with Dynatron and why it's almost impossible to do it yourselves. Now, how does this whole thing work? Before we get into the nuts and bolts, it's important to understand we have full integration with every single DMS company, including Tekion. What that means is when a dealer decides to partner with Dynatron, we actually have a data protection, very ironclad process in place to where once that agreement is executed, the DMS filters us over 2 years of historic repair order data. Once we get this 2 years of historic data, we have a department that starts compartmentalizing every single op code into the analytic technology focused on fixed operations improvement. This is called EBIS. EBIS stands for Executive Business Intelligence Software, okay? Once we build out that technology site, which by the way runs over 66 million analytic reports, we want to put you guys with an expert fixed operations coach that's going to systematically take you through a proven process of profitability. Again, this does not require a large time commitment. This is with a very, very minimal time commitment. We're already prepared with this plan. What that means is most guys and gals on this call are working in the business every day. We want to take 30 minutes a week to work on the business alongside you. So that's really step one, is once we get the data, we build and launch that technology site in about 45 days, and we launch you with an expert fixed operations coach. Now, the first thing that we evaluate, the low-hanging fruit, is your customer pay repair pricing. Why do we start there? Well, we find that a lot of the repair rates that are set today are set by either mystery shopping a couple of the competitive dealers around town, or they're set going off of gut feel. So what do we do differently? The first thing to note is we've got something called a virtual performance group. Now, I know many of you on today's webinar are in 20 groups. So what a virtual performance group's function really is it's like a 20 group on steroids. It's a composite of 25 to 30 other same brand dealers in a similar market. So once we get your data live and we put you into this anonymized group of other same brand dealers in a similar market, it allows us to first and foremost evaluate your repair effective labor rate against a control group average to see where that rate stacks up. What is the appropriate rate based off your brand and your location? And once our coach determines that, we're actually going to build a custom labor matrix pricing structure to help achieve that optimal rate without negatively impacting retention. Now, one other important point is in today's industry, we've got a lot more electric vehicles, a lot more high-tech situations popping up. And we also, in domestic cases, may have heavy truck and diesel work coming through the shop. So these are things to think about, that we really should have a variable pricing strategy that's based off of the data of the industry. Again, nowadays we go off gut feel, we do a few mystery shops, we set it. Hey, we're selling the repair, it must be a good rate, right? This is an opportunity to dive into a level that you've never been able to achieve before, to really understand how to perfect retention and profitability by really identifying that sweet spot for your customer pay repair work. Now, who on today's call is familiar with vAuto? Again, we're going to put up a poll here. And I'd really appreciate everyone to answer this one because this is going to be a very important question. All right. Looks like we got a pretty good split. So we've got about 7 out of 13, 8 out of 13 that know who vAuto is, okay? Those more than likely are our GMs and our dealers, right? Our financial or the front-end people know vAuto because it's a front-end tool. Those of you that don't know what vAuto is, essentially it's a comparative market platform that allows us to utilize data analytics to determine what the right price is for a used or a new car based off condition, based off geographic location, all of those variables. That's essentially what vAuto does, right? Dale Pollock, the founder of vAuto, considers Dynatron like the vAuto of fixed operations. So the 9 of you on today's webinar that know vAuto, take that concept now, because many of you couldn't operate your front ends without it, right? Apply that concept to fixed operations. So when we're thinking about the complexity of those 4,800 price points, needing to be consistently monitored and managed for retention and profitability, now we have the ability to apply conceptually a vAuto style technology to fixed operations. And again, yep, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to bring up, the prior poll, we had just a little sticking point with that as far as the confidence level in the question you asked. Would you like me to bring that up again, or would you like just to proceed where we are?
You know what? You could bring it up again. I noticed it didn't come up, and I didn't want to just stop and wait, so I just kept moving. But if you want to bring that up, I'd love to see the answers of how confident people are in their pricing as it exists today. So if everybody wants to just quickly let me know where they're at on that, I would hope, and I'm pretty confident those that are current existing partners would be pretty confident, whereas those that may not utilize our services are somewhat. And it looks like, again, about 56% at this point are somewhat confident. About 44% are not confident at all. And no one answered that they're fully confident in their pricing. Actually, I spoke too soon. We're getting some fully confidence there. Excellent. Well, I will end that poll, and I appreciate that. I was curious as to what the answer would look like. I will share the results with the group and then get back into it. So those of you that are familiar with vAuto recognize this slide. And the reason I bring this up is I just want to really make the point that the same concept of vAuto, where we're using that comparative market data to determine the right price of the right car to move the metal and to maximize the profitability, is conceptually the exact same thing that we're doing on a fixed operations level. So again, we talked about repair a little bit. We talked about the labor matrix pricing structure that we build to help achieve that optimal rate without negatively impacting retention. Now let's talk for a minute about how we optimize maintenance price. Because maintenance price, as everyone knows, has to be a lot more competitive, right? So on one hand, that virtual performance group that we talked about of same brand dealers in a similar market that acts as like a 20 group on steroids is really good in identifying variance between your dealer and the average of 25 to 30 other same brand dealers in a similar market. We don't, however, necessarily have that direct market data. In other words, we don't necessarily know what the aftermarkets around you are charging, right? So to really complete the equation of how we optimize maintenance price, we've got to understand what that direct competitive market is doing. Therefore, as a best practice, regardless of whether or not you use Dynatron or partner with Dynatron, is we conduct a quarterly mystery shop that allows our partners to select 11 competitors per quarter, and we're specific to the vehicle, the service, and the shop. What that means in today's webinar is everyone will have the opportunity to say, hey, Rob, we know Jiffy Lube, Firestone, Goodyear, Walmart, Costco, Pep Boys are eating our lunch on a lot of this maintenance. How can you guys tell us what the optimal price is without knowing what they're charging in my market? So the answer to that question is we do. The mystery shop allows us to gather that intelligence on the services, the competitors, and the vehicles you want us to shop. And we'll do 11 shops per quarter so that when we're looking at this virtual performance group data, we've also got the aftermarket and direct dealer competitive numbers in your market. Even if they're not our customers, the mystery shop allows us to capture that data. Now, what that means is that's the perfect equation for optimization of maintenance price. You have to know both generally what that market is looking at globally or regionally, as well as what those aftermarkets around you are charging apples to apples for the same service on the same vehicle. And that data is what allows our coaches to make those recommendations on whether we're over or under in terms of price on our maintenance services. So that's, again, an important point, is the mystery shop is a critical component of how we optimize maintenance pricing. So again, the way that should work on a best practice scale is really we should be, even again, if we're not partnered with Dynatron, isolating every quarter 11 competitors around us that we know are stealing our maintenance business. We know, because again, as industry experts, we've been doing this almost 30 years, we know the first shop needs to be 5 predetermined default services in round 1. And those services for us are non-negotiable. If you really want to know the intelligence of what those services are, we're about to share you, but those first services have the largest impact on customer pay. Each subsequent service, round 2 and beyond, we've got more flexibility, right? So let's look at what that information tells us. So in the round 1 shop, again, these are the ones that are hard-coded. There's little to no flexibility on these, are the alignment, the lube oil filter, which is a loss leader, but it drives traffic, the battery replacement, brakes, and diag, right? Those we know you need to be the most competitive on. Now, a lot of times, depending on the OEM, right, batteries and alignments might actually be included in your warranty labor rate increase analysis, right? So how much more important is it if it's affecting your warranty work that we start by optimizing those prices and we get the market intelligence to do so? That's round 1. Again, you can kind of spot check now round 2, 3, and 4, but just bear in mind, whether you're Mercedes or Mazda, these are variable, right? And we have data to help you guys determine in round 2 or 3 or 4, what should our shops look like? Should we call an audible and choose something else based off the fact that maybe we're underselling one of these other services? But that's a little bit more on the mystery shop. So again, we do have flexibility with the vehicle services and competitors, but during the actual quarterly meetings is when then you'll have the choice to say, okay, we shot these 11. We want to put these 3 new ones in and backfill them with these particulars, right? Because as you guys know, there's new aftermarkets popping up all over the place. There's new dealers popping up all over the place. So again, that flexibility allows us to evolve and adapt and overcome in a very dynamic automotive market. All right. So now we've talked about repair price optimization a little bit with the grids. We've talked about maintenance optimization with the mystery shop. Let's talk for a moment about compliance, because compliance represents, when I say we optimize price and maximize effective labor rate, compliance represents the effective labor rate piece. So how do you maximize the output of a pricing strategy? You create an easy, daily, manageable process for full transparency and accountability in service pricing. What that means is I could optimize price until I'm blue in the face, but until I can control human behavior to use the right price for the right customer, I don't know what effect it's going to have on my business. Therefore, compliance represents really the keys to the kingdom. It represents if we can get compliant 95% of the time, we know we're going to achieve 95% or higher on our targets, right? So what does our approach to compliance look like? First of all, this has nothing to do with tracking discounts. We're never going to tell a dealer not to discount. But what we will train dealers on is the right way and the wrong way to apply a discount to a repair order. Now, again, having talked to hundreds of service directors, the policy typically is a discount or a coupon code on the repair order, right? That's usually the best practice recommendation. Never change a labor sale amount. Why? One, if I'm a customer and I just bought a Ram TRX, right? I'm at 30,000 miles and I'm in the service department. Service advisor says, Rob, you're due for a 30K service. It's going to be $3,700. Now, if I decline that work and then I'm offered a discount to get that work done, right? If I buy the work under the premise of the discount and yet don't see it on that repair order, do I believe I just got that discount? Think about it. When we discount everyone, it's an opportunity for a huge CSI boost. We're buying a customer's loyalty. But if they can't see it on that repair order, that's a problem, right? That's the first reason we never change labor sale amounts. The second reason we never change labor sale amounts is we can't track or manage it with the DMS. In other words, if we're plotting a target to hit a certain effective labor rate and we don't know how much money we're giving away every month in discounting, we can't offset it. It's a variable that's unknown. The third reason we never want to change labor sale amount adjustments is because it falsely deflates our repair effective labor rate, leading to lower warranty labor rate increases, right? So those are the three reasons that this particular process is fundamentally important, because it's going to control the frequency in which advisors are changing labor sale amounts. Now, I want to address one more thing before I get into how this report works. Service pricing guide, right? I've had guys say this isn't an issue for us. We have SPG, service pricing guide, which essentially means we upload our prices, we associate it with an Oppt code, so the advisors can't discount. But what we find is they still do. How? Miscellaneous Oppt codes, bad Oppt code usage, right? There's a variety of ways they use the wrong Oppt codes, that they pre-populate the incorrect amount, even in the case where service pricing guide is being used. Secondarily, who's keeping that up to date? Again, back to the 4,800 price points. If we put that system together, everyone, it has to be reevaluated every quarter. And what I find is even guys with service pricing guide aren't doing it consistently, which means even if it's working, the prices aren't necessarily accurate that are pre-populating. So again, just a little bit about service pricing guide. Now, how do we stop this non-compliance behavior and achieve higher than 90% of our target effective labor rate? This report on the screen is called the Advisor Performance Report. It is sent out daily to all of the service advisors as well as the service managers. And what it's looking at is a month-to-date rollout of compliance. So you'll see immediately as a manager, who are my advisors? How many repair orders are they writing each day? How many lines of work are they putting on those repair orders each day? But the number off in the next column represents how many times are they changing that labor sale amount, whether by $1 over or under. The percentage off reflects that percentage of time that they're making those mistakes. Now in the next column, you'll notice the undercharge and the overcharge, right? Now Deltoni, the top advisor on this particular list, as an example, undercharges customers over this particular month by $1,963.24 and overcharged by over $1,354 for a net difference of $608.55. Now looking at his actual repair effective labor rate of 156.12 against his target of 166, we can now start to identify why that delta exists. He's changing labor sale amounts, right? So more importantly, how do we use this information to change the behavior in a constructive way? Now, with this automated report that gets sent out daily, we train service managers on what's called as a 5-minute workout. Those of you that are partnered with us know this workout very well. The audit detail is going to break down every single line of work by advisor that they mispriced on a daily basis. What that means is for the service manager, they're going to get spoon-fed a master report. And the advisor's responsibility is to come to them each day. They're not going to the advisor saying, hey, come here, come here. The advisors are going to them every day with this information. And they're saying, boss, I'm on the report. You told me to come see you before 11 o'clock. I'm here in your office, right? Now, the audit detail, guys, is going to show the service manager line by line, where did they change the labor sale amount? What it's going to show them is what should have been charged based off what we paid the technician against what was charged and what was the difference, whether it was over or under. So the role play is, good morning, Dell. It looks like on RO number 9903742, we wrote it as a 99 Oppt code. We paid the tech 3 hours. Now, we should have charged $575. You charged $468 and left X amount of dollars on the table. What happened? It's as simple as that. That question by the service manager, what happened, is incredibly powerful. Because after a few weeks of answering that question, the service advisors quickly realize, one, this is transparent. I'm having to answer a very hard question because it's usually, hey, I got approved on a discount, I put it in the wrong way, or I made a mistake. Regardless, the path of least resistance, everyone, becomes for the advisors to do the right thing by the pricing policy so they don't get asked that hard question. Within about 30 days, we've seen a $5 to an $8 increase in repair effective labor rate without even optimizing a price on the existing rate because of the level of transparency and accountability that this particular component of our solution has. Again, you can optimize price until you're blue in the face, but until you can easily control human behavior to use it on the right customer, you really don't know what effect it's going to have. So this, guys and gals, is the secret to maximizing effective labor rate, is the compliance factor. Now, again, in the beginning of the presentation, we showed you our average warranty labor rate increase of $23.75. And the reason it's so much higher is because before we ever file on behalf of our partners, we optimize price and maximize effective labor rate. So again, if you see that $16.55 effective labor rate increase, that means your warranty labor rate increase is going to follow and also increase significantly. So how do we approach the warranty labor rate increase? One, there are two ways to file for a warranty labor rate increase, unless of course you're Chrysler. There's a state rule, and then there is an OEM rule. What that means is almost every service manager that's ever run a warranty labor rate increase in their career usually just uses the OEM rule. And that could be going back 90 days, 100 sequential repair orders, include warranty-like repairs. And by the way, you got to throw in alignments, brakes, batteries, bulbs, right? They'll always put a few maintenance items in there as well. Ask them, have you run the state rule to see if it would get you a better return? Most of them don't even know there was a variable rule to file for a warranty labor rate increase, which is a really important thing to know. You could be missing a huge opportunity on filing by not knowing both ways. What that means to everyone on today's webinar is, as a best practice, Dynatron's EBIS technology can cycle through millions of variable data points in about 3 seconds, find the best possible data sequence to file, and we even submit it to the manufacturer on your behalf. And again, we're going to run both the state and the OEM guidelines. So what that means to everyone else is you don't have to do this anymore. This is actually part of our solution included. We do not charge a success fee when it's part of our Value Bundle 1 program, and it has been widely received as the easiest way to capitalize on warranty revenue in the industry today. And hopefully not any of you are on an automatic increase, but if so, we can talk about that a little bit later. So let's pivot for a minute and talk about warranty part submissions. Now, the warranty part submission is similar to the warranty labor rate submission, but there is no OEM calculation to file. It's all based off state rule. So depending on what state you are in, there is a defined calculation of how to file for a warranty parts submission. Now, as an organization, we file these as well. We actually even help dealers optimize their customer pay parts matrix before they file. And what that means is if you're at cost plus anywhere between 62 and 78%, you do have another opportunity to file, but it will require some measure of analytics in that customer pay parts matrix. So again, we have a very streamlined, easy solution to work with your parts manager to show him or her where those little changes could be made to lead to a bigger warranty parts markup percentage, as well as capitalizing on a higher percentage of your customer pay parts. So this is a really big opportunity. I know there's probably a lot of dealers that are under, let's say, 98 to 105% on warranty parts. Our partners, generally speaking, will get up into those low hundreds before we call it quits on warranty parts. So there is a way to do that. And those of you that are interested in learning more about that will have the opportunity toward the end of this meeting. Okay, so to the dealers and GMs in today's meeting, you guys are spending a lot of time on technician capacity management and forecasting. Again, I've talked to hundreds of you. Most of you are doing this on complex spreadsheets today, which take you hours and hours every quarter to compile. We have integrated a new solution in our toolbox called TechCF. And TechCF stands as the nation's first automated technician forecasting and management tool. What that means is part of our agreement with our partners is when we actually upload the data and when we set up the technology, your coach is actually going to help input all of the technician data into TechCF, from name to the level of technician to what they're getting paid. Even time off is going to be considered, which means this is the most accurate forecasting and management tool out there. And once it's uploaded, once we create the data in the tool, you're going to have access to every comprehensive report that will allow you to analyze efficiency, productivity by technician in an instant, which, again, I've heard is a huge time saver to the GMs that are doing this manually. This one component alone paid for the investment of the tool itself many times over. And again, this is one of the newer additions to our toolbox to help everyone out. So what does a landscape of relationship look like? Now, Once a data protection agreement is executed, we actually hold an implementation meeting really now within 1 to 6 days of that agreement being executed. At the same time, we recognize we really need a top-down management approach to make this thing work. What that means is after that implementation launch meeting occurs, which is really to set the expectation to the general managers and service managers, we also want to get the dealers, the CFOs, the COOs on a call so they know who is Dynatron and what are we about to do with them. Now, again, we never want to be a line item on an invoice. This is a critical step to make sure that's not the perception of who we are. After that, again, it takes us about 45 days to upload all the data, compartmentalize the opcodes to make this happen. After that, we begin our phase 1 coaching called Start Smart. And Start Smart consists of 1 coaching episode per week in the first month, just like we're meeting today. And after that first month, we taper off to bi-weekly for the remaining 5 months of Start Smart. So again, Start Smart is 6 months of coaching. First month, it's every week 30 minutes, and then it's bi-weekly thereafter. The service managers are the ones that are really making those calls. And then the general managers are at least in a check-in meeting every quarter to make sure that we're achieving the results that we set in the executive review meeting. That's Start Smart. That's where we're focused on optimizing repair price, maintenance price, compliance, tracking the warranty labor rate stuff, setting up Tech CF, the mystery shop, the grids. That all happens, what I just showed you, in phase 1 coaching Start Smart. Now, again, our average client outside of that process makes $314,000. That's the average. So what do? We want to get the executives back together to celebrate our success. Again, we're an under-promise, over-deliver organization. So if we told you in the executive review meeting that we're going to make you $250,000, in the executive recap meeting, we're showing you that we just made you $350,000. So again, this is where we're sharing the results against the expectation, and this always becomes a celebration of our mutual success. Now, after that executive recap, we're going to bring the service manager and general manager into either Las Vegas, Nevada, or Dallas, Texas, for a 2-day executive workshop. Now, this 2-day executive workshop focuses on more of the advanced components of fixed operations, right? This is where we're going from phase 1 pencil and eraser changes into analyzing your multi-point inspection process, into analyzing your service menus, looking at ways to reduce your one-line item repair orders. It's time to start looking at service as sales, right? Too many of our advisors today are order takers. How do we start looking at service as sales and switching our philosophical view of what the service department is, and more importantly, of what our advisors' roles are? That's the 2-day executive workshop. Again, this has been considered like giving you your PhD in fixed operations, you being the GMs and the service managers together, and it happens in month 7. The reason we do this workshop in month 7 is what we glean from learning, and again, you'll be in a peer group of 25 to 30 other dealers that are in that same part of the process, but what we learn from that workshop, we can then implement in phase 2 coaching, entitled Stay Smart. So in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see Stay Smart. This is where we're just meeting with you once a month, but that one meeting a month is an hour long. So it's less frequent, but it's more in-depth information to make sure we're tracking to achieve the results that we set in the executive workshop. That is Stay Smart in ongoing coaching. This is a little bit more about the 2-day executive workshop, again, in Dallas or Las Vegas. And what I'll kind of wrap this up with is the secret of how we gain partnerships with the largest dealer groups in the country is we are one of the only automotive vendors in this industry that offers a guarantee ROI. What that means is, at this point, everybody that thinks this is maybe a good idea, it's guaranteed to be a good idea. Every dollar that anyone agrees to invest in our partnership is guaranteed to generate a minimum of 3 back, while our average is 20 to 1. We have never been able, we've never had to refund anyone's money to make the guarantee. That is our commitment to everyone today, is we know the opportunity exists. Provided you make the meetings and implement the changes, we know we're going to knock it out of the ballpark, so we're giving you that guarantee. Now, I'd like to know, another poll here just to get everybody re-energized, how interested would you be in finding out how much annualized revenue each one of you have? If there was an opportunity to do so, would you be very interested, somewhat interested, or not at all interested? And it looks like the majority of you are very interested. So let's talk about that for a minute. I'm going to share the results with everybody. So how does that work? So because we have so much data, we are a data company after all, we have the ability to take your volume of customer pay and warranty work and brand and regional information, really just with 4 KPIs, plot out a pro forma. What that means is, what would we conservatively project we would make you in each one of these areas if we hit our average? And that is what we do have the opportunity to show everyone today. We're going to have an action item here in just a minute. But before we put up that QR code and go into some Q&A, I'd like to point out that as an organization, we really offer 2 levels of solution, okay? Both solutions include everything that we talked about today with only one difference, and that is whether or not you want us to file for a warranty labor rate increase. The base bundle, again, all the analytics, consulting, tech CF, the workshop, the mystery shop, all of the coaching is included in this base bundle package. The only difference between the base bundle and the value bundle 1 is whether or not you're eligible and willing to let us file for your warranty labor rate increase, which would be part of the value bundle 1 package. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do some Q&A, and those of you that are interested in looking at a pro forma, go ahead and scan this QR code and do that. And secondarily, anyone that does opt in for a pro forma review can also sit in and look at their virtual performance group. So if you're a GM dealer in Colorado and you want to see 25 to 30 other GM dealers in that region and how you guys stack up, we can also share with you that data as well as the pro forma of what we would anticipate making each one of you as part of our partnership of excellence. So it looks like we do have a question here that I'll read. So it looks like it says, after the initial return, what is the value return year over year ongoing? That is an excellent question. So think about it. First of all, whoever asked that question, are you familiar with vAuto? And please put that in the Q&A box, because I'm gonna draw a parallel, okay? If you're familiar with vAuto, just because you're selling a whole bunch of cars, does that mean you cancel vAuto? Of course not, right? And you are familiar with vAuto, right? So similar, pricing optimization is an ongoing process. Right? So the dealers that we're partnered with now stay with us 7+ years because they understand, yes, the first year we're going to get huge gains, but every quarter over quarter, we've still got the next thing that we're working on. We have to continue to optimize price. We have to continue to monitor and manage the expectation from both a technician and a service advisor standpoint, right? So again, the returns first year are going to be the biggest and the best. But each subsequent year, we still see a tremendous amount of value in working on other greater, bigger, and better areas of opportunity with respect to fixed operations. So really good question. I hope that answers your question. And we'll give everybody just a second to ask any other questions that you have on today's presentation.
Sure. Everyone, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and click on that, and your question will go straight into Rob. Here's one. How do you know what my direct competitors are charging?
That's a great question. So meaning, in your market, again, we have 3,800 dealers, but not all of those are going to be the dealers right around you, and certainly not the aftermarket. The answer to that question is the mystery shop. Again, we can include dealers and aftermarkets in that mystery shop to make sure that when we're making those pricing recommendations, it's not just about the regional data, it's about your direct competitors around you. And I hope that answered the question.
All right, here is another. What are some best practices for holding advisors compliant when it comes to pricing?
I mean, another great question, right? I'd say, 10 years ago, SBG would have been the answer. But as I articulated in today's webinar, there are holes in that process. So what we find is the best way to control compliance is really creating that easy, daily, manageable process for complete transparency and visibility on that report. That's the best practice. There's no way the DMS can provide you what should have been charged, what was charged, and what's the difference. So the best practice is really that advisor performance report and that 5-minute workout. That is a great question.
And someone wants to know, how much does it cost?
Again, a really good question. So we switched to a size-based pricing model about 3 years ago because what we recognized is the large dealer groups were very happy with the investment amounts, while other smaller rural dealers felt that it was too much of an investment. So what we did was we switched our pricing model about 3 years ago to a size-based pricing model. What that means is for the Value Bundle 1 program that we just looked at that includes the warranty labor rate increase with no success fee, it can range. Again, for a smaller dealer, it could start on an investment scale anywhere from 1,200 to scale up all the way to a dealer that's writing 6,000 hours per month. They're going to invest closer to 2,600 in the same program. But I like to say there really is no cost to the program with the guarantee. What that means is I'm a Las Vegas guy, right? If there was a casino down on the strip right now that had a 3-to-1 guarantee, I would be waiting in line to get in that casino with every dollar that I owned, right? Similarly, because of that guarantee, not only is it seen as an investment, but it's a protected investment. Therefore, what's really costing you is not doing anything at all about suboptimal pricing.
We can take more questions with the remaining time. Go ahead and click on the Q&A button.
Okay.
Otherwise, Chuck, why don't you reactivate your webcam? Come on, and we'll go into the next segment of the webinar.
Rob, I got to tell you, that was a great webinar. And I guess StrategicSource is proud to partner with you because our guarantees work the same way. And I've always been amazed why the lines at the trade show aren't out the front doors because we guarantee the savings. So whatever your investment is, a minimum of 3-to-1 on up to 10-to-1, I mean, big time. So we are right with you on that.
And Chuck, we did have one more question, and I'll answer this last question because I think it's an important one. The question is, will TechCF help me build a reliable annual forecast for the following year? And the short answer to that is absolutely. Not only will it do that, but it's going to be more accurate than what any GM or dealer could do on their own because it takes into account things like time off, right? So TechCF, historically speaking, has been rolled out by about 2 years now. And I'm hearing from others, and again, Dave, you're the guy answering this question, so maybe you could tell us a little bit more. But I hear that the actual productivity that it helps our dealers with is the equivalent in some cases of actually adding a technician, meaning because it gives us that laser-like precision focus on what technicians aren't necessarily pulling their weight and allows us to coach those technicians, right? The additional productivity in some cases equals the same as if we would have hired a new A-level technician. So really, really good question, Dave. Go ahead, Chuck.
No, I was just saying, no, I'll wait till you finish. I just had to get that out. Pretty exciting for us.
That's great. Go ahead. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. So listen, I really appreciate the opportunity to do this again. We've been doing this for many years. I plan to do it again next year. We encourage everyone to take advantage of the Performa. Similar to StrategicSource, being able to look at expenditures, we can look at the other side, which is how can we help everyone exceed their goals for 2024. And again, we're an under-promise and over-deliver type of organization. So if you're interested, we can set you up with a 15, 20-minute view of your own virtual performance group, as well as what we would expect to make you guys in the coming year with a partnership of excellence.
Well, this has been great. This has been great. This webinar will be up on our website in the next day or so. So you can just scan the QR code, supply your info, and we'll forward it to you, a copy of the webinar as soon as we can. Thanks again, Rob. For anyone thinking about their expenses right now, the question is, how much money are you leaving on the table? Most dealerships are overspending on supplies and services by 25% each month. There's about 150 expense options out there where you can spend money. Most dealers will spend in roughly 100 of these categories, and spend as a percentage of sales equals about 5%. If you do 100 million in sales, that 5% equals to $5 million. 25% of that looks like $1,250,000 on an annual basis, which is what you would have the ability to save with StrategicSource. 95% of the dealerships in the United States are decentralized, meaning that they don't have a purchasing department and locations are free to select whoever they want. StrategicSource can be that purchasing partner for you. Business problems that you face all the time. There are too many categories. Typically, there is not a plan to effectively attack those categories. Dealers are short-staffed. StrategicSource has a lot of experience in cost reduction and analytics. Last year, we completed over 2,300 sourcing projects in the expense categories used specifically by dealerships. Expense challenges that you have. You're typically overpaying for supplies by 25%. There's a broad scope of categories. There are too many suppliers to manage, too many invoices to process, and there are too few discounts and rebates that get taken advantage of. So the challenge becomes, how do we simplify that? This slide shows what the annual savings opportunity might be for 4 different sized revenue groups ranging from $25 million to $300 million in annual sales, and what that savings can look like on a monthly basis. This is an incredibly important slide. You should pay attention to this because this gives you real dollar calculations that StrategicSource will guarantee when we enter into an agreement with you. Remember the cost savings down to the bottom line, so it has an immediate impact on your profitability. Immediately. Our expense category served, we'll just touch on this briefly. There are 72 categories regardless of what business you're in. If you're a dealership, a church, a manufacturing company, or a service provider, you're likely to spend money in these 72 categories. If you own your own facility, or even if you're leasing, you're probably spending in these 15 related categories. If you're an automotive dealer, here's another 56 expense categories there, so you can see how the scope of this work is getting to be quite large, to 130 to 150 categories, and that can be pretty overwhelming. StrategicSource has some solutions that can help you. We have a profit improvement program. We manage the process of conducting a financial analysis of all your spending. We do spend category planning. We source money-saving solutions for your spend categories. We implement the solutions. We review and perform supplier compliance audits to make sure you're getting what we've told you you're going to get, because that's what the supplier has promised us. The problems StrategicSource solves and help you correct are high expenses and broad supplier bases. Another tool is our strategic spend analysis. This is more of a strategic broad look at your expenses. We analyze them, we put them in the correct category buckets, and we build a plan for you to execute. Benefits for you are you get an organized, prioritized plan and a good staff planning tool, all with the idea that we can help direct you to a 25% savings. Contract Tracker. This tool was designed specifically for those dealers because there are so many contracts out there. Keeping current and managing all the terms of these contracts can be a daunting task. And who are you going to assign to do it? The benefits for you are that keeps these contracts visible, gives you advance alerts on expiration dates, and there's some risk management because you may want to have the time to take a look at that and renegotiate that contract. Our spend management suite solves the problems of poor staff planning, no contract management, high prices, and weak profits. You'll get a strategic focus, contract tracking, and improved pricing and profits for your dealership. Expense Edge was created from our database of thousands of price comps, and we've been doing this for over 20 years. This is similar to Home Depot. We actually provide the tools and the solutions for you to do the work. We give you the data points to keep your costs down. Spend management learning. Excuse me. We do a lot of training in the areas of spend management. We've trained many folks. We do many webinars a year on purchasing 101, 102, and 103. Simply put, we can teach your team to do what our team does, and that just is a direct reflection in your bottom line. Hopefully, this has been a helpful presentation today. Scan the QR code and we'll get information out to you right away. Thanks again to Rob from Dynatron Software for his presentation. It was fabulous. As a note, StrategicSource does not take any type of compensation from our suppliers or partners, but we do know that we have vetted them. We know that their work product is and how competitive they can be. This presentation today gave you a hint of that. We would encourage you to take a deeper look at our suppliers' offerings. Thanks again for attending. David?
All right, Chuck. Thank you. And thank you, Rob Malaris. And we are going to bring up a post-session survey. We'd love to catch you here with 2 simple questions before you depart today. So there we have it on the screen. We appreciate everyone's time, and we look forward to you joining us on future Profit Improvement Series webinars with StrategicSource. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.